soy de Filipinas, yo hablo español, pero para esta presentación voy a hacer inglés para poder explicar un poco más. Yeah, this work, this is my PhD, and I do it in Amsterdam, but most of my field work I do it in the Amazon. And the work, I do different types of field work, but for this presentation we'll focus on how communities learn with the river. And this is a drone shot we took this May. We're trying to do a documentary as well, just to show the different levels of the river and how the drought in 2023 and the flood this year has been affecting the communities in the Amazon. Yeah, I do say most of the presentations I've watched are mostly very technical, hydrology, engineer, medical sciences. I do my PhD on human geography, so it's more social sciences, and I use interviews, workshops, drawing sessions, and just walking with the communities as they try to teach me how they live day to day with the river. And this was one of the stories they were telling me back in 2023 and also came back in 2024. This is how they feel. So I do different work in different communities, but most of them, they feel forgotten, that the government is not there. The government only remembers them during election season when the candidates need their vote. Nadie viene a ver qué proceso tiene nuestra tierra aquí, pero cuando vengan, tal vez ya no vivimos. Because they really want to show what happens there, because it's a very complex area, and as Adrian has shown earlier, we lack a lot of data sets in this area. And so it's also difficult to do hydrological work because I work as well with hydrologists, and we've been trying to figure out what types of data sets to use. And so because most of the stories they tell me really point out to being forgotten, feeling forgotten, I just want to show you where I do the work. So this is Iquitos. Has anyone visited it? My mind is a bit confused, so sorry for that. Okay, so I do the work here in Iquitos, in one community called Bajo Belen. And depends on the boat, I can reach Tamsiaco in 1 to 2 hours. And again, depends on the boat and depends on the level of the river. I can go to El Chino in 2 to 3 hours. But if the river is really low and the boat has some problems, I can get there in 8 hours. When I first went there back in 2022, I was with Maria. She was helping me a lot back then, and that's how we met. And we were asking communities, so how do you live with droughts? And then they told me, aquí no hay sequías. But I really read reports and papers that said that in the Amazon there were droughts and there will be droughts in the future. But they were like, no, there's no droughts. Go to Madre de Dios, go to other places in Peru, but not here. Even Senami and IHP and all other organizations were telling me to go to other parts of Peru. But when we were walking together, they asked me and Maria, oh, do you mean drought when we don't have enough water? Do you mean drought when there's less of this, less of that? And then that's how we started talking about droughts, and they were telling me, yeah, we don't call that droughts, we call that vaciante extremo, vaciante prolongado. But for them, of course, the flood was easier to tell me about, because it's easier to see that the flood is rising and there's creciente and there's flood. So yeah, just showing how different the landscape can be in 3 to 4 months. So this is the normal cycle of the river. It dries up and it gets into the wet season. And for this presentation, just wanted to, this is the theoretical framework, and here just wanted to say 2 things. That the way communities and the way we understand the things that we understand, the way we understand the river, the weather, it depends on where we are. So you understand Peru differently than the researchers, for example, in the Netherlands would understand Peru, because you live there, you're from there, but culturally, you're attached to the area. Food-wise, you're there. So your knowledge are situated. It means like you relate to the area differently. But at the same time, when we talk about risk, when we talk about disaster, when we talk about impacts, these are not just natural things that happen. The things that happen in the Amazon, the risks that happen in the Amazon. It's not just because there's vaciante and creciente in sequía inundación, but it's because of a lot of things that they don't have. Like they don't have basic access to school and hospital. And I think it was this morning during the panel, one of the women was saying, I think it was Barbara, that for our country we need good education and good health services, and those are two things that a lot of Amazonian communities they still don't have at this point. So just wanted to point out the different types of risks that they face, and yeah, just showing when and where I did my work. Yeah, those are the different teams. So, this is my back in 2022, and I've been working as well with some of the hydrologists in IHEPE. This is not a very nice photo, there's not much light, but yeah, some of the students I've been working with in Amsterdam, and these are biologists and foresters from UNA in Loreto, and some of the community when they were trying to draw. Yeah, I'll show different communities in different seasons, so you can also try to imagine how difficult it is, and yeah, how the day-to-day they have to anticipate what happens to the river. This is during the Vicente in 2022, and there are two types of houses, primarily houses that float. So they were telling me that back in the old days, there were more houses that float because the wood was either more free or more cheap. And so the logic here is that they don't know how high the river can get, so the house will just float. They just have to find a pole and just tie the house very tightly to the pole. Another type of houses would be on palitos, on stilts. Yeah, and then during the creciente, what they tell me is that the river is the same, but there is no same season twice. So the drying and the wet season, they come every year, but every year it's different. And that took me 3 weeks to understand what they meant with that. And this is Namshiaco, the other community. So along the river banks, they plant mostly rice, and this is highly vulnerable to the river because this is when they plant the rice during the wet season. So yeah, during the dry season, when the river starts to lower down, they would just throw the rice seeds. But there is a phenomenon called the repiquetes. The repiquetes is when the river suddenly rises during the wet or the dry season for a few centimeters, and then after a day or two, suddenly lower down again. And sometimes it washes away all the seeds. Or when this repiquetes happens during the different phenological stages of the rice, it can also impact their potential yield. So there's a lot of things happening. And in the last community, this is still in Creciente, and here people mostly fish. I'll go to the results. So basically what I wanted to show that in different communities it's easy to say that they all live and depend on the river similarly. That they all fish, they all farm, that's true, they fish and farm, but they live with the river very differently. For example, in Bajo Belen, this is the cycle of their livelihoods, the cycle of their lives during the dry season. The dry season is usually from November to April, March or April. There, they start to fish, and this is quite the opposite because they live close to the river, but then in that river there's not so many fish. And during the dry season, most of the men and women they prefer to work in iquitos, other types of work. But during the wet season, then they start to plant in the other areas. And here as well in Tamshiaco, they have other relationship with the river. So most of the year they fish, but they also start to plant rice and corn during the dry season. And then they also depend on different types of land. So along the river banks they plant rice and corn, but farther from the river they can plant vegetables and perennials, fruits. And in the other community they also have different relationships and different activities around the river, and what we tried to do during the interviews and the workshop was to identify different times when the river is more difficult to understand, more difficult to anticipate. So those would be the transition period from dry to wet and then wet to dry. Because during this season, they really don't know how the river will behave, so they can either start planting in anticipation of the dry season or start fishing in anticipation. Everything is in anticipation, but then anticipation is based on their long previous knowledge, and that has been affected by the changes in the past decade. There was a drought in 2010, In 2012 there was a flood, and then 2023 another drought, and 2025 another event. So things have been changing. So the things that they can anticipate sometimes don't happen, and so the impacts are just more aggravated. So basically, that's what we wanted to show. And one thing that we found difficult in Iquitos, I'm not sure in other parts of Peru, was putting the different government agencies together was quite difficult. Because, for example, if I'm the local government for Loreto, I don't need to just talk to the people in concerned for the agriculture sector. I also have to talk to the government concerned with agua potable, all the sectors. But then in Iquitos, it's quite difficult to promote a culture of collaboration. And so what we did this year, because my PhD is ending in 4 days, I think, I hope. What we did this year in May to June was to arrange dialogues in Lima and Iquitos as well, mostly to bring different government stakeholders together. So in Lima, we were together with Senami, INDECI, and other government agencies just to present the work we've been doing and how multi-stakeholder collaboration is one of the keys. Not just for data sharing, because when you ask the government, how can you help, how can you work together, the first answer is, yeah, data sharing. But then we also talked about where does money come from, how do we prioritize, which is more impactful, drought or flood. And we did the same in Iquitos. And then we also went back to the communities to share the results. And this was one of their outputs during the dialogue when they were trying to map out the information and collaboration network. And they all realized two things: that they're already doing a lot of job, and secondly, it's really difficult. Because of a lot of things, logistics, it's difficult to get there, and it's also very expensive to do work in the Amazon. And yeah, I'm also part-time artist, so we did some exhibit as well, because most of the things are difficult to communicate through the data we have, but we have a lot of materials like photos. And we were trying to do an imagination session, but it was difficult. But what I realized about Peruvians, they really like talking about food. So the second time I did my field work, I told them, okay, we start to draw plato típico en el futuro. And then they all started talking about the future, different types of food that they can eat in the jungle, if there's less fish, but more of this and more of that. Yeah, and this exhibit traveled from Lima to Iquitos, and the day that it was traveling from Lima to Iquitos was the day when they opened the new airport. So yeah, it got delayed. If you want more details, I have my own website for the stories, the poems. Yeah, and thank you for inviting me here.
Gracias, Lili. Tenemos tiempo para 2 preguntas rápidas. ¿Alguien tiene una pregunta? Sí, aquí.
Thank you very much. Very nice presentation, very nice experience. What a nice PhD.
It is a nice vision.
Congratulations. I was wondering, what is the idea behind these different patterns in 3 very close, let's call it close in distance, but not in time, as you said, that take up to 8 hours, Petrochino, what is behind these different patterns in these communities that should be considered similar?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just cultural? Is it also due to the geography that
Mm-hmm.
is very different? Is it because there are some ethnics mixing there, influenced by let's call it Western type cultures? What is your idea behind that?
That's a very good question. First, I would say the geographical location. So for this community, Baobelen, they're very close to the major city, as I've mentioned. So in terms of livelihood options, other than farming and fishing, they have the city to explore. And at the same time, they have the city for schools, for hospitals, clinics. Yeah, and that changes the way they choose how to live. But at the same time, when I was asking them if they wanted to live in the city, like in the city, in Iquitos, they wouldn't leave the river, because for them the river is source of life. Although this is a difficult conversation, because the government has passed a law back in 2012 to relocate them inside a protected area. and some of them moved, but some of them stayed because they really feel attached culturally to the river. And the other communities, geographically as well, Tamshiaco is quite unique because it's quite elevated. So even if the Amazon floods normally, they're not very much affected by the floods except when it's a very extreme flood. And at the same time, it's right in front of the Amazon. So there you see all the big boats stopping in Tamshiaco, people getting to, stopping there, having their time to eat and explore the town. So also there are other types of livelihoods. And El Chino is the most isolated community I've worked with, but there are even more isolated communities. So first is the geographical location, how isolated they are, the access to basic services, because in El Chino they only have schools until primary school, and then the kids, if they really want to study, they would have to go to Tamshiaco or Iquitos, which costs money. And here they don't use a lot of money. They use crabs and fish as an economic way of living. And then I guess also the culture. In El Chino, I think because they live more closely with nature, because they have to fish 7 to 8 hours from the community when there's a drought, they really know where things happen. So they can tell stories about climate change, they're very much aware of that. I guess in Bajo Belen, what preoccupies them, of course, is climate change as well, but mostly the political things happening in Iquitos and how forgotten they are, because they can see how Iquitos is developing year by year, but how forgotten they have been through time. And again, how far they are from the major river or the tributaries.
Thank you.